Hello, welcome to Study Circle. Today we are going to read Class 9th Standard Civics, Chapter 3 Electoral Politics. This video is the summary of this whole chapter and intended for revision purpose only. Those people who are preparing for any teaching exam, for those, this video is very useful. So without wasting any much time, let's start. Electoral Politics. We have already seen that in democracy, it is neither possible nor necessary for people to govern directly. The most common form of democracy in our time is for the people to govern through their representatives. In this chapter, we will look at how these representatives are elected. To elect the representatives, elections are necessary and are useful in democracy. Elections. People can choose their representative at regular intervals and change them if they wish to do so. The mechanism is called elections. Need of elections. To establish rule of law. A rule of the people is possible without election if all the people can sit together every day and take all decisions. But it is neither possible in any large community, nor is it possible for everyone to have the time and knowledge to take decision on all matters. To give voters various choices such as choosing who will make laws for them, choosing who will form the government and take major decisions, choosing the party whose policies will guide the government and lawmaking. Minimum condition of a democratic election. That everyone should be able to choose. Everyone should have one vote and every vote should have equal value. Real choices. Parties and candidates should be free to contest election and should offer some real choice to the voters. Choice should be offered at regular intervals. Election must be held regularly after every few years and the candidate preferred by the people should get elected. Elections should be conducted in a free and fair manner where people can choose freely. Elections are mostly all about political competition, which takes various forms. The most obvious form is the competition among political parties at the constituency level. It takes the form of competition among several candidates. Demerits of electoral competition. It creates a sense of disunity and factionalism in every locality. Party politics. Parties and candidates often use dirty tricks to win elections. Unhealthy competition. Pressure to win electoral fights does not allow sensible long-term policies to be formulated. Some good people do not like the idea of being dragged into unhealthy competition. Reason for choosing free competition in elections. Political leaders all over the world, like all the professionals, are motivated by a desire to advance their political careers. They want to remain in power or get power and position for themselves. It is important to set up a system where political leaders are rewarded for serving the people and punished for not doing so by the people. That's why free competition in election was chosen. It better works in long run. System of elections in India. Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha assembly election are held regularly after 5 years. After 5 years, the term of elected representatives come to an end. The Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha stands dissolved. Elections are held in all constituencies at the same time, either on same day or within a few days. This is called general election. Sometimes election is held only for one constituency to fill the vacancy caused by death or resignation of a member. This is called by-election. Electoral constituencies. Area-based system of representation. The country is divided into different areas for purposes of election. These areas are called electoral constituencies. The voters who live in an area elect one representatives. For Lok Sabha election, the country is divided into 543 constituencies. The representatives elected from each constituency is called Member of Parliament or MP. Every vote should have equal value. Our constitution requires that each constituency should have a roughly equal population living within it. For states, each state is divided into a specific number of assembly constituencies. In this case, the elected representative is called the member of legislative assembly or an MLA. Each parliamentary constituency has within it several assembly constituencies. For panchayat and municipal elections, each village or town is divided into several wards that are like constituencies. Each ward elects one member of the village or the urban local body. Sometimes these constituencies are counted as seats. For each constituency represents one seat in the assembly. Reserved constituencies. Some constituencies are reserved for people who belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. In a scheduled caste reserved constituency, only someone who belongs to scheduled caste can stand for the election. Currently in Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled caste and 47 for the scheduled tribes as on 26 January 2019. This number is in proportion to their share in the total population. This system of reservation was extended to other weaker sections at the district and local level. In many states, seats in rural or panchayat and urban municipalities and corporation, local bodies are now reserved. For other backward classes also. However, the proportion of seats reserved varies from state to state. For women, one-third of the seats are reserved in rural and urban local bodies for them. Reasons for reserved constituencies. In an open electoral competition, certain weaker sections may not stand a good chance to get elected to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. Weaker sections may not have the required resources, education, and contacts to contest and win election against others. Voter list. In a democratic election, the list of those who are eligible to vote is prepared much before the election and given to everyone. The list is officially called the electoral roll and commonly known as voters list. Importance of voters list. Everyone should get an equal opportunity to choose representatives. Everyone should have one vote and each vote should have equal value. No one should have denied the right to vote and without a good reason. Equal say in decisions. Different cities differ from one another in many ways in terms of caste, religion, economic background, etc. But all of them are human beings with their own needs and views. Voter list in India. All the citizens aged 18 years and above can vote in an election. Every citizen has the right to vote regardless of his or her caste, religion, or gender. Only in rare situations, some criminals and persons with unsound mind can be denied the right to vote. It is the responsibility of the government to get the names of all the eligible voters put on the voters list. As new persons attain voting age, names are added to the voters list. Names of those who move out or replace those who are dead or deleted. A complete revision of the list takes place every 5 years to ensure that it remains up to date. In the last few years, a new system of election photo identity card (EPIC) has been introduced. The card is not yet compulsory for voting. For voting, the voters can show many other proofs of identity like ration card or the driving license. Nomination of candidates. Anyone who can be a voter can also become a candidate in election. The only difference is that the minimum age for candidate is 25 years, while it is only 18 years for being a voter. There are some other restrictions on criminals, etc., but these apply in very extreme cases. Political parties nominate their candidate who get the party symbol and support. Party nomination is called party ticket. Security deposit. Every person who wishes to contest an election has to fill a nomination form and give some money as security deposit. Recently, a new system of declaration has been introduced on direction from the Supreme Court. Every candidate had to make a legal declaration giving full details of serious criminal cases pending against the candidate, details of assets and liabilities of the candidate and his or her family, educational qualification of the candidate. This information has to be made public as it provides an opportunity to the voters to make their decision on the basis of that information provided by the candidates. Now, educational qualification for candidates. There is no educational qualification for holding such an important position because of the following reasons. Educational qualifications are not relevant to all kinds of jobs. The relevant qualification for being MLA or an MP is the ability to understand people's concerns, problems, and to represent their interest, which is examined by voters after every 5 years. Even if education was relevant, it should be left to the people to decide how much importance they give to educational qualification. In our country, putting an educational qualification would go against the spirit of democracy for yet another reason. It would mean depriving a majority of the country's citizens the right to contest election. For example, if a graduate degree was made compulsory for candidates, more than 90% of the citizens will become ineligible to contest elections. Election campaign. The main purpose of the election is to give people a chance to choose the representative. The government and the policies they prefer. For this, free and open discussions happen during elections. Campaigns. In India, such campaigns take place for 2-week period between the announcement of the final list of candidates and the date of polling. During this period, the candidate contact their voters, political leaders, and address election meetings, and political parties mobilize their supporters. Election campaign not limited to these 2 weeks only. As a political party, they started preparing for elections months before they actually take place. Necessary to regulate campaign to ensure that every political party and candidate gets a fair and equal chance to compete. According to our new election law, no party or candidate can bribe or threaten voters, appeal to them in the name of caste or religion, use government resource for election campaign, or can spend more than rupees 25 lakh in a constituency. It means that they cannot spend more than rupees 25 lakh in a constituency. For a Lok Sabha election, rupees 10 lakh in a constituency in the assembly election. If they do so, their election can be rejected by the court even after they have been declared elected. Model Code of Conduct. In addition to the laws, all political parties in the country have agreed to it for election campaigns. According to this, no party or candidate can use any place of worship for election propaganda, use government vehicles, aircrafts, and officials for elections. Once elections are announced, ministers shall not lay foundation stones of any project take any big policy decision or make any promises of providing public facilities. Polling and counting of votes. The final stage of an election is the day when the voters cast or poll their vote. That day is usually called the election day. Once the voter goes inside the booth, the election officials identify her, put a mark on her finger, and allow her to cast her vote. Polling and counting of votes. The final stage of an election is the day when the voters can cast or poll their vote. The day is actually called the election day. Once the voter goes inside the booth, the election officials identify her, put a mark on her finger, and allow her to cast her vote. An agent of each candidate is allowed to sit inside the polling booth and ensure that the voting takes place in fair way. Voting procedures. Earlier, the voters used to indicate who they wanted to vote for putting a stamp on the ballot paper. Nowadays, electronic voting machines, that is EVMs, are used to record votes, which shows the names of the candidates and party symbols. Once the polling is over, all the EVMs are sealed and taken to a secure place. The agents of all candidates are present during counting of votes to ensure that the counting is done properly. The candidate who secures the highest number of votes from a constituency is declared elected. Electoral malpractices, inclusion of false names and exclusion of genuine name in the voter list, misuse of government facilities and officials by the ruling party, excessive use of money by rich candidates and big parties, intimidation of voters and rigging on the polling day. Factors responsible for making elections democratic in India. Independent Election Commission (EC). In our country, elections are conducted by an independent and very powerful election commission (EC). It enjoys the same kind of independence that the judiciary enjoys. The Chief Election Commissioner (CEC) is appointed by President of India. But once appointed, the Chief Election Commissioner is not answerable to the President or the government. But if the ruling party or the government does not like what the Commission does, it is virtually impossible for it to remove the CEC. Wide-ranging powers of Election Commission. EC takes decision on every aspect of conduct and control of election from the announcement of election to the declaration of result. It implements the code of conduct and punishes any candidate or party that violates it. During the election period, the EC can order the government to follow some guidelines to prevent use and misuse of governmental power to enhance its chances to win elections or to transfer some government officials. When on election duty, government officers work under the control of the EC and not the government. When election officials come to the opinion that polling is not fair in some booths or even in the entire constituency, they order a repoll. Popular participation. Another way of checking the quality of the election process is to see whether people participate in it with enthusiasm or not. Some facts about participation in India. People's participation in election is usually measured by voters' turnout figures. Turnout indicates the percent of eligible voters who actually cast their vote. Over the last 50 years, the turnout in Europe and North America has declined. In India, the turnout has either remained stable or actually gone up. Here in this data, you can see this. In India, the poor, illiterate, and underprivileged people vote in larger proportion as compared to the rich and privileged sections. This is the contrast to Western democracies. For example, in the United States of America, poor people or African Americans and Hispanics vote much less than the rich and the white people. Common people in India attach a lot of importance to election and feel that through election they can bring pressure on political parties to adopt policies and programs favorable to them. The interest of voters in election relating activities has been increasing over the years. During the 2004 election, more than one-third voters took part in campaign related activities. More than half of the people identified themselves as being close to one or the other political party. But out of every 7 voters is a member of a political party. Acceptance of election outcome. One final test of the free and fairness of election has in outcome itself. If elections are not free or fair, the outcome always favors the powerful. The outcome of India's election speaks for itself. The ruling parties routinely lose election in India both at the national and state level. In fact, the ruling party lost in every 2 out of the 3 elections held in last 25 years. In the US, an incumbent or sitting elected representative rarely lose an election. In India, about half of the sitting MPs or MLAs lose elections. Candidates who are known to have spent a lot of money on buying votes and those with known criminal connections often lose elections. Barring very few disputed elections, the electoral outcomes are usually accepted as people's verdict by the defeated party. Challenges to free and fair elections. Money power. Candidates and parties with a lot of money may not be sure of their victory, but they do enjoy a big and unfair advantage over smaller parties and independents. Criminal background. In some parts of country, candidates with criminal connection have been able to push others out of the electoral race and secure a ticket from major parties. Family politics. Some families tend to dominate political parties and tickets are distributed to relatives from these families. Lack of choice. Very often, elections offer little choice to ordinary citizens as the major parties are quite similar to each other in terms of policies and practice. Smaller parties and independent candidates suffer a huge disadvantage compared to bigger parties. Now, the interesting point of this chapter is that Chaudhry Devilal led a movement called Nyay Yudh, Struggle for Justice, and formed a new party, Lok Dal. There are more than 100 countries in the world in which elections take place to choose people's representatives. Currently in Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for the scheduled caste and 47 for scheduled tribes as on 26 January 2019. Some of the successful slogans given by different political parties in different elections. Slogan Garibi Hatao. This slogan was given by the Congress party led by Indira Gandhi in the Lok Sabha election in 1971. Save Democracy. Loktantra Bachao is the slogan given by the Janata Party under the leadership of Jayaprakash Narayan in the Lok Sabha election held in 1977. Land to the tiller. This slogan is given by the Left Front in the West Bengal Assembly election that is held in 1977. Protects the self-respect of Telugus. This slogan is given by N.T. Ramarao, the leader of Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh, an assembly election in 1983. A ballot paper. A ballot paper is a sheet of paper on which the names of contesting candidates along with the party name and symbol is listed. So, this is the summary of this whole chapter. If you like the series, do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.